against CLG in game one of the series, of course. And as we dive into it and dissect this first game, I want to take a look at champion selects because we had these criticisms for CLG, the fact that they've been playing compositions that they should be very comfortable with, and we had questions around whether or not they're actually going to step up their execution of these team compositions. So we see a very familiar Jax pick in the top lane, you know, the Elise and Bard, very comfortable champions for Xmithie as well, and definitely looking to maybe set up that 4-1 split push as we saw develop throughout the game.
Yeah, I thought it was actually a really nice draft for them. I think that Karma made a lot of sense for HuHi. He likes to play to kind of support the team, to enable the other players around him to succeed. And since we haven't seen the best split so far from Stixxay, put the Karma with the Ezreal. He's playing a very safe champion already. Now he has these shields to allow him to play even more aggressively. He also had Aphromoo playing incredibly well, saving him with CC, Bard helping him out. So it was just like, it worked very well as the team, and then you kind of have Darshan just off on his own, doing his own thing, and he's very comfortable in that world. So, allow the players to play their strengths, and they did that very well.
Exactly. So now, as we move into the gameplay portions of it, this game was not without its mistakes on both sides of the rift. It's not just one team that was screwing up, but it definitely felt like in the earlier portions of the game, CLG making smart macro decisions, but lacking in the execution of some of those things. We saw it in the first blood that was given over to Immortals because of missed skill shots from both HuHi and Xmithie.
Yeah, it's something that can easily happen. They're making the right calls, and that's the important part. You can't just get too stressed out about, oh, I missed my cocoon, the what ifs, because that stuff's going to happen.
Right.
And, they do miss some of those skill shots, but they hit very key ones later in the fights, which really were allowing them to get ahead.
All right, so then let's dive into the game itself. I want to start 12 minutes in with a small replay. Top lane, CLG is going to end up 2-0 in this scenario. Kind of our first example of CLG making a little bit of a case.
Yeah, and this was a really nice play from Aphro, actually. So he's getting collapsed on. He sees where Reignover is coming from the bottom. Pobelter's ulting in. Aphro flashes to the left, joins up with his team, nails the binding, and they all just go for the collapse straight onto Huni. So this was a really good call, not only by CLG, but fantastic follow-up. They all committed exactly to that call. They're able to kill off Huni before he's able to be a threat. Reignover has to pull out, knowing that all 5 members from CLG were rotating up. So they make the rotation faster, they execute on the play, and Aphro especially came up huge.
I was going to say, that's kind of the key thing here, is that this wasn't even a play that they set up. This was Immortals acting on them, but it's showing exactly what we want to see from the likes of CLG. We expect big performances from Aphromoo on Bard. He delivers it there in knowing his champion, knowing how he can play mechanically his way out of this fight. So we wanted to see a lot more of that, and we did in some areas. Before we move on to our next replay, though, I do have to say, Darshan, as being one of the players that we were going to keep our eye on, still had a couple moments throughout this game, where you got to question what was going on in the mind. We had a sweet pickup kill on Huni in the top lane, in which Pobelter then TF ports in. Darshan hands over a free kill right back to him when he could have gone and picked up a huge minion wave in the top lane. And it's those kinds of things that are still plaguing this team, which makes it difficult to say these are the guys who won Spring Split.
Yeah, it's tough because it's one of those things where you just had a win, but you want more, right?
Right.
And it's a lot of the problems that they had in these early game fights where it kind of went wrong, that fight they were talking about, as well as when they tried to all collapse on Reignover and Aphromoo got picked off, it's just a matter of not having enough vision to make the play. If you don't know where the other team is, you cannot safely do this, right? You're taking a huge risk, and Darshan's just assuming, hey, it's just the TF, I'm gonna smash this guy, but guess what? The bot lane was there. They didn't know that, so it is a mistake because they don't have that information, and you have to play safely because of that.
Right, exactly. Now let's move on, though, to the kind of the game breaker. 28 minutes into the game, CLG in the mid lane, 3-0 here, plus the Baron on the back end of it all. Once again, Immortals, the team choosing to start this fight.
And this is the Immortals initiation, and Xmithie nails such a great cocoon onto Pobelter, not allowing him to Zonias or really do anything whatsoever there. And this is where Aphro starts to really kind of take over the fight. He's able to land some really good bindings. He drops the magical portal, allowing Ezreal to retreat back out. Then he nails another one on Turtle. Turtle kind of, I think he was trying to dash over the wall upwards, but he makes a little mistake there. He gets taken out too. And we have to remember, not only was this an Immortals engage, but this was an Immortals 5v4.
Right.
Darshan was already dead, so it's possible that TF actually had used his Zonias in that previous fight. I'm not sure, but either way, some really nice skill shots both from Aphromoo and from Xmithie in that fight, and they came up huge. They were able to protect the Ezreal, and then the chase down potential of that Ezreal getting sped up by the Karma is so strong.
And this is what you're talking about. They just need to warm up those skill shots. They missed a few earlier in the game. They got those out of the way. They started to hit them down the stretch, and that's where it really kind of worked out. Moving on to player of the game, it is going to go to Aphromoo. 1, 2, and 10 on that Bard, but more than the scoreline was the plays that he was making mechanically with the Bard ultimates, as well as the bindings coming out from the other side, opening up his damage dealers to really be able to clean up the fights.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's the damage dealers that get to shine through when the support sets up the fight. And you know, sometimes it's the case of the damage makers are kind of setting up their own plays, but Aphro really started a lot of these fights off fantastically. He was not only nailing a lot of great Bard ults, but he was forcing summoner spells consistently throughout the game with them and nailing the Bard Qs. And when you're able to consistently bind people throughout the fight, it's such a short cooldown for such a long CC. So it's a high barrier of execution, but he pulled it off fantastically. Well deserved.
Let's look ahead to game 2 real quick. Immortals having suffered that loss, they'll move to the blue side of the map, CLG red side, of course. What changes, if any, do you expect to see? I mean, we did see Huni get a little punished on that trundle by the likes of the visitation from Xmithie through the lane swaps and such. So maybe Huni going back to more Aurelia, more, you know, I can do this on my own kind of thing, or what?
I definitely think we could see that. I think that, you know, the reason they put him on something that's at least a little bit more tanky or can build more tanky is because they had Reignover on that nidalee. Reignover actually was crushing in the early game of multiple levels, was just an absolute beast as far as kill participation and farming. So, you know, he played really well, but I think that Immortals as a whole generally looks more comfortable with Huni on a playmaker, you know, someone who he can kind of do it on his own, outplay in 1v2s, look to create his own advantages. And then you have Reignover, who's always just this rock for the team on something like, you know, the Olaf, the Rex side, where he's always consistent and he's always in the right place at the right time.
Yeah, I want to see the Olaf. I want to see more like full team fight compositions, not this pokey stuff. Anyway, when we come back, we'll see if CLG can take the series or if